So please keep that in mind. I apologize, we're only having one debate. The election is on the 18th, which is next week, and we're going to be having the vote there. All right, Nico, please go ahead to the debate questions tab. It should be listed as debate questions, or untitled, I can't remember exactly.
Of course. The first question is, what experience do you previously have that you believe is applicable to the job as president?
All right, I'll let my opponent go first. Andre?
All right. In general, I have a pretty decent work ethic between school, doing crew and our stuff. Yeah, we're having presidential debate.
Vote Will.
Come on. Okay.
I second that.
Sure, quiet.
I've learned off of Will's failures as a president, and I know what needs to be changed, such as better planning, working on having accurate player rankings, and actual fundraising. And yeah.
Right. So, can you please repeat the question?
The question. What experience do you previously have that you believe is applicable to the job as president?
Okay, so I'm pretty used to executive duties. For the past, let's say, maybe close to 6 years. It's been a minute since I started. I've done multiple executive jobs, such as being the president of an after-school program, being the president of the debate club, and of course being the president of the original Smash Brothers club. If you're from Ontario, John Kenzel, I think, as well. You were a member of the gaming club. That was the original club where I was responsible for the administrative tasks for that club, and they can vouch for me that I know exactly what I'm doing. Second of all, I know how to learn from my mistakes. My opponent has rightfully pointed out that I have made mistakes from last year. I've made calls that I regret and I believe were incorrect at the time period. Now, however, I believe that I need to redeem myself by correcting these mistakes. In April 26, 2019, I filed out a paper along with my vice presidential candidate, Nico Cabrera, of the issues of the club. And we addressed every single issue that was a potential threat to the club for the next year. And we thoughtfully thought out of ideas to solve those issues. Unfortunately, some of those solutions are not working because the school does not want to give us a PTSA grant. As a result, we are working on a club bake sale. My opponent has stated that he has a good work ethic. However, he has yet to have gotten involved deep into the bake sale by failing to fill out the form notifying me if he will be submitting something to the bake sale. He has also failed to make any cash donations. His vice president, however, has donated 10 clubs to the bake sale. As a result, I was able to buy materials that we needed for the club. If anything, his vice president should be the one taking care of tasks, or being the one for the presidential candidate, not Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, would you like to rebut?
I've been waiting to fundraise until after I'm elected. After today, if I'm elected, in the next 2 months, I'm gonna have not a bake sale. That's close plan. I'm gonna have a fundraiser. It's gonna be like a couple $1 entry fee to just come to my house. Everyone in the club will be invited. Food will be provided. We can order whatever food we want, as long as we can agree on as long as it can be up to 3 different cuisines or something. There's gonna be a trampoline, a hot tub. You'll have a view of the bay and multiple large TVs to play Smash on.
I'd like to make my defense. Mr. Brown has stated that he will be making fundraisers after his election. However, he has the opportunity to do that now. As a board member himself, he has the ability to work on projects that can benefit the club. I do not see why he has to wait for to run for president and be elected to make actions when he can do it right now. I, for one, am prepared in case of the failure of my election that I will put my 110% in supporting any actions that benefit the club and support the idea of the Smash boards taking charge and doing their job as the representatives of the club amongst the club to do the job, fundraising, leading fundraisers, and organizing tournaments. Mr. Brown, your rebuttal?
No.
All right, next question.
Very well. Second question. What works have you previously worked on that you believe is applicable to the club and your executive management?
Mr. Brown, you can go first.
in terms of fundraisers, I've had experience doing a lot of fundraisers in middle school. I have access to resources and things people are interested in and are willing to pay for. Also, the trampoline in my house is enough for 6 to like 10 people at once. So there's like room. What else? Not in direct attack to my opponent, but unlike our current president, I spend money on things for the club, like paying for DLC.
Not the direct attack.
That isn't a direct attack.
And I have resources to donate. So, yeah.
Can you please repeat the question?
What works have you previously worked on that you believe is applicable to the club and your executive management?
So, the entirety of last year, I was the one responsible for all the Google Docs, all the works, all the papers that occurred in the club. I was also responsible for organizing all the tournaments that occurred between the original founding of the club, the gaming club, and the current state of the club from last year and the year before that and all that jazz. As a result, I have experience in writing and being I'm extremely organized, as seen with my Google spreadsheets. I always make sure to judge my ratings fairly, and I always remain principled. Although some people criticize me for the fact that I used last year's rankings for this year's tournament, for the first year that is, from a principled stance, I believe that we should use rankings and use modified rankings for the tournament, as I believe that the tournament rankings should be used in order to seed people in bracket. I also am extremely good at fundraising myself. I have worked with my father numerous times on fundraising projects, such as selling chocolate in a yard sale or selling chocolate in a school fundraiser. As the cashier and as the seller, I'm extremely good at persuasion, and as thus I can sell things for the club. In the bake sale, I'll be making shortbread cookies. I will be probably the main responsible person, unless something befalls me where I'm unable to perform my duties as president. I will be the main driving force between the selling of those shortbread cookies when we do our fundraisers. I'm also the one who organizes all the paperwork for this club, even though the board members would also have to get involved in the paperwork. The sole person who's doing the paperwork. I'm working with Ms. Rosemary right now on getting work done for our first bake sale and Super Smash Blast, which will be later this year. Mr. Brown, your rebuttal?
Mr. Brown?
Who's playing this?
Unrelated.
You're up.
Unrelated.
All right, do you have a rebuttal, actually?
Oh, no, I don't.
All right, next question, Mr. Cabrera.
Very well. What issues do you think are affecting the club, and how do you plan on solving them?
One thing is money. One example is Will wants to get a Switch or multiple Switches for a Switch rental program. To get money for the club. Basically, if we have extra Switches, people who don't have Switches can rent them and practice along with controllers and docks. The only issue is we don't really have a budget. Our current president wanted to rely on the school for a grant, which many people in the club warned him that the school was not going to give a grant to a video game club. And I have the resources to put in and get those things we need for the club.
Gamers are oppressed. Yeah.
All right, so Mr. Brown has stated that we were warned that a request by the majority of the club members, that is, that a request of this size will be rejected by the school. Whilst Mr. Taylor, did in fact warn us, we were willing to work with the school PTSA to work around issues so that we can still get funds for the school. Also, whilst we do not have a sizable budget for this year, our budget will increase with the efforts of the bake sale. Mr. Brown has pointed out that I rely too much on the school. We are a school club. We actually rely on the school. That's what school clubs do. I don't see what's the problem with that. He's also stated that he has resources of his own that he can dedicate himself to the club. Mr. Brown, as far as I'm aware of, you have not donated, as in club-owned resources, to the club as of now. You also say that you bought the DLC for the club. As far as I'm aware of, you bought the DLC for yourself. If it was for the club, the Switch would stay here at all times, and when you graduated, the Switch would remain here.
I have been using, the club's been using my Switch every day, every club session since the middle of last year when Ultimate was released.
But Mr. Brown, is the Switch club-owned, yes or no?
It's partly owned by the club.
Partly owned is not good enough. That
The
means
entire
either
club
it's...
has access to it.
Even if the entire club has access to it, will it have access to it when you graduate in 2023? Yes or no?
No.
No,
But at
exactly.
that point, they
No,
won't
no,
be
the
in
point
club.
has been made, Mr. Brown. No one will have access to your Switch unless you come down here in person to let them use your Switch.
Roger
If
does
they
that.
don't have, Roger is an exception. He goes to Cal State Hayward. We don't know what college you're going to be going to as far as we know, and you can change even if you state what college you plan on going to right now. Unless you have money invested into that college, and you swear to all things mighty that you will be going there, and you go there, and it is within range, reasonable range here, Oakland Tech, we do not know whether or not future years will be able to use that Switch. Mr. Brown, do you have a rebuttal?
Yes. Although I have not paid for any physical resources for the club, last year I only hosted one party for the club, but this year I'm going to be hosting a few more. And as I'm elected, that will give me the, what's the right word? It'll give me the right incentive to put more effort and work into the club.
I'd like to say a quick rebuttal. Mr. Brown, we thank you very much for having that one party hosted over the summer. However, we want you to understand that hosting parties for your place for the sake of the club, not for friends, for the club, can bring in some serious issues. This was brought up at the board. What if someone gets sick? What if someone gets hurt? What if someone even potentially dies? What if someone gets drunk? What if property damage is done? We don't want the club to be called responsible for whatever damages are done. We don't want the school being held responsible for whatever damage is being done. Mr. Brown, I asked you
gets drunk at my house no one should be held responsible for someone going into alcohol. Well, we don't actually even have any, but no one else should be responsible for someone else getting drunk at something.
But Mr. Brown, that's not what the law says. The law is the law of the land, and it has jurisdiction over you.
Yes, but the law also says that literally no one in our club can legally drink. So
Granted, but still, no laws aren't always followed.
You brought up that we should follow the law.
No, Mr. Brown, I mentioned that the law is above everyone else. Not everyone is going to be following the law. That's a different story. Not following the law is breaking the law, which means that that's an offense and can be reportable. This is the same argument that they use in various debates. Why should we have a law if people keep on breaking the law? That's counterintuitive. The purpose of laws is that these offenses can be punishable. I have no rebuttal. Mr. Kabir, to the next question.
15 minutes.
Very well. What policies are you running on, and how will they affect the club?
Mr. Brown, go ahead.
Okay. One policy I'm gonna say is I'm gonna definitely make sure we have multiple tournaments a month. We will not take so much time at the beginning of each club session for 15 and 30-minute speeches. Those take up a lot of time, accumulatively. Again, we're gonna have multiple fundraisers. I'm gonna start funding the club myself. I'm gonna start trying to get more people being more invested into the club. I'm gonna actively try to see where the club can get more food or get discounts on things like controllers. And I'm also gonna make the next election a lot less forced and structured than this. Yeah.
All right. So, Mr. Mr. Brown complains about the spiels they usually give at the beginning of the day, or at the beginning of the club session. These spiels contain vital information that club members need to know. It's not guaranteed that everyone will check out the Discord. Not everyone here is in the Discord as far as I'm aware of. I make these announcements so that club members are better informed about what's going on in the club. For example, some people who entered the club that are in our Discord before may not know that we have a tournament day today. That can shoo away members. When they're in the Discord and they miss that, well, when they miss that important information, they're going to be making choices that they don't want to, that later on will prove to be, well, not what they wanted exactly. With these announcements at the beginning of the day, they can just simply go back home by bus or something. And also these in-club speeches or spiels allow me to give important information. Like for example, if there's not going to be a club in the next week, I can directly communicate to the members who will be attending that day. He's also not specified any specific policies as well. All he says is that he's going to host multiple tournaments a month, which we already have in schedule because I organized that over the summer. And it's also said that we're going to have multiple fundraisers. Again, he has not listed any specific fundraisers and has not shown filing any paperwork on the behalf of the club for these fundraisers. Promised money as well. He says that he'll give money to the club, but we cannot guarantee that. Mr. Brown has not donated, as far as I'm aware of at least, in records, any money to the club directly. His vice president has. If anything, like I said before, his vice president should be the president, and he should be the vice president. Supporting the president, because as the voters may determine, we have similar views but different goals. I, on the other hand, however, have specific plans. We're going to have bake sales. We're having a bake sale later this month, the 31st and the 27th. We're having one in Montclair for the public and one here at the school. That'll help spread club awareness and will benefit the club because club members will be able to know, people will be able to know here at the school what we're going to be, what this club is about, and we'll be able to enjoy a nice, delicious cookie for an affordable price. I have scheduled 2 tournaments for both Melee and Ultimate each and every month. Next month, in fact, we'll be having 3 tournaments due to scheduling conflicts. And lastly, I have promised the club that we will be doing aggressive advertising for the club so that we can increase club numbers and encourage people to come here despite common fears, such as the fear of the skill gap or the fear of not being accepted. I'm working on posters right now to print out, go to paper printers, have them print out en masse, and then post them around the school. We will see noticeable results from the efforts of a Mendez-Humbain presidency. And all this will be done from the roots up. Mr. Brown, rebuttal?
To counter my the current funding it, as soon as I'm elected president, I'm going to order one wired Power 8 GameCube controller that anyone in the club can rent for, let's start $10 a week. And they can use that with their Switch at home.
To counter my opponent's argument, he's once again used the term as soon as I am elected. This term is basically saying, vote for me and I'll do these things, otherwise I won't do them. That is simply not acceptable. That's just simply demanding that you do something, otherwise I won't do it. I, however, am uncompromising. I will do whatever I say, and even if things go against my way, I will continue to pursue it unless I am virtually unable to continue pursuing that. If I'm not elected, I will continue to bring in my Switch. I will continue to bring in my GameCube. I'll continue to do the things I do right now. I will continue to organize things. I will continue to work in things. Mr. Brown is suggesting that he'll just drop everything and just assume nothing will happen, even though he'll remain a board member, unless he's voted out in the November elections, but I don't see that for coming. Mr. Brown, your rebuttal?
To counter Will's argument about being uncompromised, literally kicked me off the Discord for saying that, for adding everyone a few times, saying diabetes, Martha Lucina.
To counter that, that's against the club, that's against the Discord rules, and as a result, that was an offense. This is not something that Mr. Brown is unfamiliar with. He's been warned several times not to do this. In fact, there's a reason why we have no spamming pings as a separate rule and not falling under common sense. As a result, for him breaking the rules, I dished out the punishment that I deemed appropriate, which was kicking him out. Your rebuttal, Mr. Brown?
My rebuttal is our Discord rules are too strict and don't let people have any fun, especially in the memes. channel, which is being very censored right now. And I'm going to be a lot more lenient on Discord rules, and anyone who like really upset about how many notifications they get from the channel can just mute off-topic chat, because that's where most of them are going to come from. And that solves the problem.
Counter Mr. Brown's argument on muting the server, that means that they risk missing crucial information in the club. They can still view it voluntarily, but that means that they're not getting information as soon as possible. They might be getting out-of-date information. They may be seeing things maybe weeks after it's been announced, and let's just say that no announcements were made after a week. I'd also like to mention to my opponent that censorship is not an issue of the club. Censorship is very rare. I've probably taken only 7 posts down. All of these posts violated rules or were just simply too on the edge in order for it to be permitted. Mr. Brown, your rebuttal?
Not direct rebuttal, but PowerA wired GameCube controller. I'll order on Amazon at the end of this club if I'm elected again. I just want to make sure everyone knows what I'm getting for the club.
All right, next.
This controller is USB, so you won't have to spend an extra $15 on a original GameCube controller to USB adapter for a Switch. You can just use this controller alone. It's one like the one Josh has. Yeah. Not like the style, but you know, just USB, right? Yeah,
Right.
like that.
Next question, Mr. Guerrero.
Very well.
Oh, it's not gonna be broken though.
Please tell me it's not going to be a hybrid.
Huh?
It's not going to be a hybrid either, right?
What do you mean by
All
hybrid?
right. Next question. Next question.
It's a hybrid.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's gonna be one color.
Next question. Why should the club vote for you and not for your opponent?
Because I don't get triggered and and I'm not ban happy with people in the Discord for one. If someone hates me, I usually praise them. Roger's an example. Luke's an example. I've talked about how Luke is a phenomenal player at the club. And when someone beats my main, it's cool. We usually have back and forth and it's banter, but it's fun. I definitely do not ban someone from the club server. And I will not instate as harsh or strict rules both in the server and the club. And when I'm president, the next election is going to be a lot less forced, and it's not going to be this formal of an election. It'll probably be like vote for one person or the other, maybe a few minutes for points, not spanning a few weeks.
All right. First of all, to counter Mr. Brown's arguments, I don't get ban happy. Mr. Brown has been so far the only person that has been banned. I don't even ban people. I kick them.
What about the tall white kid? The tall white kid was here a few weeks ago. He was on the OG members and you banned him.
Tall white kid. I don't know who you're talking about.
I think he's a junior. Luke's friend.
No, I as far as I'm aware of, I have not banned them at all. That's actually unclear. The audit logs were somehow deleted. I didn't ban them personally. I'm not. In fact, when he was saying that, he was snickering, which probably meant that he was laughing, since last year when he did join, he didn't really attend any of the meetings and didn't have any, as such, probably didn't find any purpose of staying in the Discord. Harsh, strict rules. The club has no harsh, strict rules. They're pretty simple and easy to follow. No NSFW content. Don't spam pings. Don't do what else? Unfortunately, I don't have the list on me right now. But these are very simple, easy rules that any person can abide by. There are only a lot of rules because some rules were not. Some rules were being broken so much that they had to be separate from the common sense rule. If anything, common sense would really be the only other rule. Would be the only rule in the club. So, Mr. Brown has also stated that a strict and formal election process is overdoing this. Presidency is something that has a lot of weight behind it and is responsible for all the executive actions that happen in this club. This cannot be taken lightly, as this club is arguably one of the most financially demanding clubs, and it has to be one of the most rigorously organized clubs. If something goes awry, the president will be the #1 person responsible for the errors
I disagree
unless
with my opponent.
traceable.
I don't see why a video game club would have to have that much organization. We should be focusing on the fun factor, and only thing we should be organizing are tournaments and hanging out outside of the club.
As I've stated before, the president is responsible for executive duties that the president must take care of. This is not something to be weighted lightly. The president is responsible for making sure that everyone's doing their job. I, right now, I'm taking the effort to make sure that everyone contributes to the bake sale. This isn't something that's supposed to be taken lightly. The presidency is an important role that must be fulfilled by the president with maximum perfection. Mr. Kabir, can you please repeat the question? I've just been doing rebuttals all this time.
Why should the club vote for you and not your opponent?
Yes. Here in this club, I dedicate as much time as I do. This year, it's been rough. 11th grade is not an easy grade. Advanced Chem is not a very easy class. Having 2 other AP classes, plus Mr. Sutton, is not a very fun thing. I'm busy, but I dedicate all my work, all my time, and all the energy I can to this club. There's a reason why this bake sale is being organized by me, not by Mr. Brown. I am putting all force behind to the bake sale. See you, Jason. I have already bought the materials other than the perishable goods that, wouldn't be good in 2 weeks. I am organizing all the paperwork responsible for our next tournament, which will happen December 13th, or the first big tournament of the year, which will happen December 13th, and the bake sale on October 31st. I'm getting the posters ready for that, so we can post them all around the school, and people can get their money, dedicate money to the bake sale. I'm getting ready so we can do pre-orders so that people can buy mass batches, so that they will be able to enjoy more cookies, and we get more money while selling things at a discount, because they're being sold in bulk. My opponent has not shown any executive authority abilities as his role as a Smash Board's member. Other people on the board, such as Richard and Roger, have. They have demonstrated that they can help lead the club and have been great allies in my assistance. I look to hear other people's opinions in the club, as you can tell. When Roger or Richard have a concern, I make sure that the concern is addressed. I might not agree with them.
Considering there's been multiple times in the past few months that the Discord has went against Polaris because of his because of his strict rules in general. And if you check the Discord, there were multiple times that were probably pinned where we've called him out being less of a president, more of a dictator.
Mr. Brown, can you point any specific examples?
A few weeks ago, let me see how far back I can scroll. It's gonna be on Smash Boards. Let's look back to.
Well, Mr. Brown's looking it up. As an example of me compromising is that when we were doing the initial idea of selling chocolate chip cookies for the bake sale, I wanted to sell cookies at $1.50. But Roger and Richard on the other end wanted to sell them for just $1. We eventually compromised on $1.25. I can get compromises done, and I'm not going to be unrelenting on what I think, other than unrelenting force to make sure that the club advances to the next level. Just let it pass by.
Sorry, y'all.
Well, I'll take some more chances to address some concerns. I apologize for all the errors I made last year. I made some egregious mistakes that I look back and I believe I could have done better. I'm not perfect, no one is here, but I'm supposed to be more perfect than everyone, and I understand that better now from the errors of last year. We only had 3 tournaments last year, and I apologize for that. I am making this up by putting in full force all the energy that I can to this club in spite of the hardships I face now with 11th grade and paperwork and all that. As I've said before, I'm the one leading the organization behind the bake sale. Jay, who is a board member and is expected to participate in these things and has been called out several times to do this, has not dedicated. Roger is dedicated. Richard is dedicated. His vice president is Richard. If the vice president is pitching in more to the club, then why is the president running as president? Mr. Brown, have you found it yet?
No, I found the one about you trying to hook up with the Christian club. Found that.
For more context in the debate, that was just a question of whether or not we should bond up with them. I personally did not believe that we should go with them. I didn't want to state my personal beliefs as I, the president, I believe that would have influence, and I wanted people to speak their minds before I put in my own personal opinion.
Can we ask any questions?
I guess since while Mr. Brown is searching about, we can ask questions. Was that the final question, by
That
the
was
way?
the final question.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
how come, also, how can we join your Discord?
Discord board is up there. All right, Mr. Brown, go ahead.
Yeah, alright, so as a result of the debate, we'll get into a debate discussion about the rule set. Wireless is not consistent when you start the election soon. This is back at the beginning of last month. We'll try to get everyone to not use any controllers besides the old school wired GameCube controllers. No Pro controllers, no Joy-Cons, none of the new updated GameCube controllers like Josh's or the wireless GameCube controllers like mine. It was going to be a hard set rule with only wired GameCube controllers. The entire club backlash went against them on that.
First of all, Mr. Brown, this was an idea that I said I proposed a while ago because I believe I had these beliefs in something. I did not impose this rule on anyone, and in fact retracted this idea from the ballot when we did the hero votes and the permanent rule set vote. I do not impose things on people, unless of course it's a bake sale to which you should be participating, and I'm going to nag you. If you said that you were going to be contributing something, or should be a leader and should be contributing something. I apologize for any misunderstandings, but other members of the board, such as Roger or Richard, understand what has happened. Mr. Brown has not. That was several months ago, and he threw an absolute cow and had, let's just say, less than kind words to say about my proposal, even though it wasn't a rule. It took him more than half an hour to understand this was not a rule. This was a proposal I made several months ago and did not pursue.
We understood that it was a rule, but me, Roger, Omega Dan, Richard, and a few other people on the Discord roasted your ass on the shit.
That has nothing to do with executive duties.
Because it was a proposal that was a far idea from anything that should have happened to the club.
As I've stated,
Not even actual super majors are that strict about controllers.
As I've personally stated, I believe that anything should be able to be voted on, unless it's absolutely something that is far out in another galaxy.
Which was your proposal?
No, my proposal was not, because I believed it was sensible. Some tournaments actually have the rule that I did, for the same exact reasons that I proposed. Granted, these are small tournaments, they're not big tournaments, but I was just proposing.
The biggest tournaments in the world have not had rules as strict as just only using wired game controllers. I personally went to Genesis last year and people were using controllers of any kind. Even Esam, one of the best players in the world, was using a controller more similar to Josh's than one that Will suggested we only use.
Again, as I said before, this is just a proposal. That was my belief. I did not impose it on anyone, and I don't see why my opponent sees it as a valid argument against it. All right, questions? Any last minute questions?
We should hurry and vote
Chris.
because most people are left.
Well, it's not really questions, more like constructive criticism.
Yes.
For you, I totally get how junior year can be a strain, especially how, like you said, taking APs and HPs, honors and APs, and especially for college, that is a major impact. But especially here, if you are the president, you should have this time just to relax. This is your de-stressor. This is the one place you can sit down and just be yourself. And for you, I also get where you come from. This is a club, we're playing Smash Bros. Let's just be cool and games.
Yeah.
But as president, you should take that initiative to do these certain things. Like these actions are being held up so this class, no, not this class, but this club to stay together. He's doing these things not just to be up somebody or just to be in somebody's business. He's doing these things to take initiative so this club can stay here for you when we leave. So just having fun or just having parties or just going to people's houses, that's not going to cut it when we leave. So I just want to make sure that you guys both have an even standpoint and what grounds you have leading toward this club itself, because I know what it takes to have initiative and to also lay back, because I've been captain of a couple of many things.
Oh, yes.
But I know how to listen to people and also take initiative when it's needed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, very good point.
Yeah, I'll take that into consideration. Especially since, I personally believe that I should put in all my effort into things. So that is something I have gotten criticism before, but I often didn't take it up. In all honesty. That is something I could improve, taking up criticism to lay up on things.
Wow.
Any other questions, criticisms, concerns?
Are we voting right now? It's like a quarter of the club is here right now.
Like I said, the vote was going to happen on the 18th, and I don't want to change that for sakes of being principled,
Okay.
especially last minute things.
So are we voting?
We're going to be voting next week. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.